Hi, and welcome to the Cupid's Coach podcast. I'm your host, Julie Ferman, inviting you to transform me to we through the process of doing dating better. And doing dating better requires that we have a good relationship with ourselves and that we're constantly growing and learning about ourselves. So I came in contact with this wonderful woman through the internet. Her name is Edit Kiss, and she has a program, a show called Release with Ease. It's a TV show. It shows up in podcast form on Spotify and iHeartRadio. And it's very interesting because she hasn't always been a holistic healer. She used to be in the petroleum industry as an engineer. I'm going to hear all about that. Welcome to the program, Edit.
Hi, Julie. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me.
Tell
Yes.
us, how do you go about being a petroleum engineer and then all of a sudden in your life you realize you have other priorities? How did that happen?
Yeah, people, when they see it from outside, they think it's an overnight transformation, but obviously it's never, right? So I was trained to be a Reiki Master and other modalities and spiritual practices even when I was an engineer, because that was my hobby, that was my sanctuary beside being an engineer. So whenever I had a free weekend or some free times, I went to my Reiki Master and we did some little retreats or some extra sense workshops. So it was a part of my life since my 20s, but it wasn't a business, obviously. It was just my hobby. And then when I was like already 15, 16 years in the petroleum industry, when I started to feel disconnected, it used to be my passion. I really loved working there. But then I started to feel disconnected. And then I started to feel like I don't want to work with numbers anymore or doing the same thing over and over again. I felt tired of that kind of routine work. And then I felt like I want to open up more and work with people. And also because I got access to such a powerful tools through karma yoga healing that I wanted to spread that more to people and then help them to heal as I was healed and transformed. So that was my probably my felt I felt like that's what I have to do. Yes.
So often, those of us who end up being healers or problem solvers of one kind or another, our motivation came from something personal. Were you a growth-oriented person from the time you were 5 years old, or was there some kind of trauma that you worked through and then you realized you wanted to help other people? How did the germ of it happen?
Yeah, when I was a child, I was always goal oriented. I was always an achiever. I always set goals. I had influencers around me, my mom, my brother. So I always set goals to myself to reach. And I always made up my mind that, yes, I want to be this, I want to be that. So I was always going towards something. But eventually, why I chose spirituality is because I experienced panic attacks in my 20s. I loved traveling. I was traveling the globe. Like I visited many countries. And in one of my travels, I experienced this attack and then I didn't know what's going on. I freaked out, obviously. And then when I returned back to my country, to Hungary, that time I found out that, oh, actually I'm having panic attacks. And then I didn't want it to be treated with medications. I was looking for something natural. And that's how I got into Reiki at the first place in my 20s. So that was my beginning of the story. And then later, when I got depressed or I got anxious or I got relationship issues, I always went back to the root, like family constellation therapy, energy healing, those kind of things to fix that. So I experienced lots of transformation due to these modalities.
Now, some people listening don't really know what Reiki is. Can you give us sort of a digest as to what Reiki is?
Yeah, so Reiki is an energy healing. There are other energy healings out there. This is just one kind. And so this is the most known energy healing, I would say. So Reiki energy healing is you channel, I mean, the person who learned how to do this, we have to learn certain signs. To draw up in the air, and then we need to channel the source energy through our crown chakra, and we heal through our palms. Like it can be if you are in the label 1, you need to basically touch the person with your hands when you heal. If you are label 2, label 3, then basically you can do distance healing. You can even send the healing to the other side of the world. So I did label 1 back in 2004, and in 2005 I already did the label 2 because I felt like it's really convenient to heal anybody, it doesn't matter where they are. And then I waited a lot before I became a Reiki master because I felt like I'm not ready to be a master. Oh, that's so far away from me. And then eventually I just did it because we were relocating to a faraway country, to New Zealand, and I thought maybe we're not going to return for a while. So I wanted to finalize my trainings with the same master. So I was like, okay, let's finalize this. And it was such a big and great decision because in New Zealand, I used this higher level of Reiki on myself, and then it's actually allowed me to drop 20 kilos in 10 months. So I lost like 40 pounds, and then it completely changed my life, my way of, my self-esteem, my confidence, way of being, because I used to be a very introvert person. I'm still sometimes introvert when I'm in a group, but since then, when my confidence came back, I became more outgoing and more extrovert.
And what about your panic attacks? Does that happen anymore?
No, because of the karma yoga healing. So when I was doing Reiki, Reiki was helping me to manage it, which means is like it when it happened, it helped me to make me more calm or relaxed, or manage it, but it always came back. It's like in every, I don't know, 3 4 months or whenever it came back always. And then it took me time, and then using the karma yoga healing, it made me realize like what I need to change in myself, tweaking myself, and also what was the root memories or traumatic experiences which probably caused this symptom in my life. And then as I was healing that through, then it's basically now it stopped. Yeah, obviously.
It's beautiful. There are people listening who may think that from where they are right now, like one of the things that you work on in your show is guiding people from misery to peace. Okay. So there may be people, there likely are, who will listen to this recording who are stuck in some level of misery about something and want to get to a place of peace. And maybe they're listening to you thinking, oh, that's not possible for me. And yet you created a show, an opportunity for us to listen and learn these things. So can we actually learn what you are teaching initially through listening to your show by podcast, Spotify, tuning in? Can we get your secrets?
Yes, I really made it possible that I bring in tools there. So the half of the show is actually the actual practices. So in the beginning of the show, I always just explain things, and then I guide people or explain them why is it happening, certain things to them. And then the second part of the show is always the healing. We're really going deep and we're really doing healings there in the show. So it's not just like something you listen to and then you get some awareness, because most of the people is when they're listening to something, they just got to the point of awareness. And then it sometimes brings them a bit of peace, like, oh, okay, so I'm not alone with this thing, or oh, there is a hope for this thing, or oh, there are some tools out there. So I am actually feeling now okay because I know there is some help out there, but I'm bringing it to a next level where I actually help to heal and transform in the show.
I really appreciate that. And I thank you for your generosity in diving right into the work, in the products and the material that you make available to us. The world is only getting wilder and crazier, right? Like
Yes,
every
absolutely.
day, every weekend, things are happening that make me realize how beautiful it is that we can share information in this way. So whether someone's in Hungary, whether they're in New Zealand, whether they're in the United States, they can access these and dive right into healing modalities. It's just beautiful. Where do you live right now, Edit?
I'm in London right now in UK.
Okay, very good. Well, it's beautiful that you had a chance to live in New Zealand. That's one of the places I'd love to visit. And my understanding is that we can't just buy property there. It's a very special place. So one of my questions to you is about misery, which is something that you like to pull people out of. What are people typically miserable about?
Yeah, so most of them comes to me with PTSD, like they already carrying a memory, like they were abused, either by a family member when they were children, or they were abused in a relationship. So the PTSD is one of the biggest issue with people. And then the other one is feeling lost, like they are not happy where they are right now, but they don't know what next, where they could go from there. So they feel lost, they feel hopeless. That's one of the issue. And then also depression. Sometimes they come to me and they say, it is similar to the being lost, but in a deeper level. So they are already feeling really sad. They already at home, maybe even like the doctor signed them to be at home. So that's like the depression when they can't go out and talk to people because they really feel bad, they want to cry, or there are lots of issue with that. So it's depression, feeling lost, and the PTSD, which is most common.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And PTSD is sometimes people hear it and think, oh, well, I haven't been to war. I haven't been a soldier. Um, I haven't been in a horrible car accident that left me trapped underneath a truck. I mean, they might not think that they've had a significant event that would cause them PTSD, but there are a lot of things that have happened in our lives that we may not have examined that may be bringing up issues like panic attacks and depression and drug addiction and alcoholism. So I guess my question to you is, how do we know if we have PTSD or not?
The signs could be also just triggers. Like if you get triggered on a daily basis by anybody around you or by your own assumptions, which means you create a situation, or you got into a situation where you feel anger, you feel frustration, you feel betrayed, you feel really hurt. Those could be a sign that you actually had traumatic experiences where you felt these emotions and you were not dealing with them. You actually put it under the cover, or you left it there, or you thought like time will heal, or you were such a young person that you didn't know what to do with that in that moment. You just felt the anger, the betrayal, all of these. And then by time you got triggered over and over again, and it was piling up. And eventually it becomes a panic attack, or eventually it becomes a heart attack, or eventually it becomes a disease like a cancer. Anger, lots of anger can create eventually cancer in the body, or lots of, for example, people use also addictions, as you said, as a coping mechanism, like overeating. I heard from people that when they had a um, situation in their life, they started to eat after that a lot, piling up weights because they felt more safe if they are bigger, because they were maybe attacked or abused, because they were skinny and tiny, and they actually piled up themselves. So no, I am safe because I'm big. So there is so many reasons why people choose to use certain things, to cope with these situations, but the triggers are really a sign. So I know it's that many people say like, oh, it's okay to feel this and this way because you are a human. But I have to tell you that I went through this like in the last couple of years, since I'm doing the karma yoga healing and the source memory healing, which is bringing back into the core and releasing from the core, that I went from a person who got triggered often, obviously, and then I got also sick after, or I was healing all of these things out of my system, and now it's like so peaceful. Life can be just so peaceful that the trigger stops. Like literally, the trigger is not coming if you dealt with the roots. And for example, going back to panic attacks, I had a client, and then when we were checking the root issues, why she's having panic attacks, one of them was a very innocent memory when she was like 8 years old, sitting in the living room with the grandparents. And she wanted to go outside because it was nice and sunny, but the grandparents were watching TV and they didn't want to go outside. So she was kind of stuck. And then she didn't, maybe she was very polite, she didn't want to nudge them, or whatever, but she felt limited. she felt that she's unsupported, or she felt like, not taken care of or something. This all was boiling in her as she was sitting on the sofa and looking the sun outside and the TV inside. Anyway, so then the next memory was for her being in COVID. And COVID was the same. Again, she had to sit inside. It was lockdown. She couldn't go outside. So she experienced the same situation. So these two things were already piling up and creating the same symptoms. And then eventually, when she moved to a different town for studying, and probably she experienced similar in the dormitory when she had to leave, then she got the panic attacks eventually.
That is a beautiful example of how something from childhood can continue to mushroom into other traumas later in life. And so getting to the source of the original time can really be effective. I can see that. I appreciate you sharing that. I want to ask you the second piece of it, which is once we identify what it is that has been causing the trigger, like the first thing you said was very powerful. If we see that we are triggered often or regularly or seriously, that's something to look at. And then once we've identified what the original event was or why it is that we have an issue around this thing, in this case with this person you just described, it was a feeling of being confined and not being able to get out, and it caused panic. How do you guide us through to the other side?
So there is a special script I learned from my master when I learned this technique, this source memory healing. And basically, it's first needs to be released from your all layers, because we have many layers. We have our bodies, like etheric body and physical body and soul body, and we also have the ancestors. So we need to release from all these layers, and we also need to replace these negative emotions with positive feelings. And then eventually the forgiveness is a really important part. So as we're going through the release of that memory, at the end, the person needs to be forgive not just the other person who betrayed them, but for themselves as well. Because many times people carrying guilt and shame around something what happened to them, because they feel like, oh, I could have done better, or I could have known how to stop that or whatever. So there is always a lot of guilt and shame and even anger or disappointment within themselves as well. So the forgiveness needs to be on both sides, for themselves and for the betrayers as well. It's really important for the healing.
It's so beautiful that the part of relationship that I'm really passionate about more and more over time is actually the space between relationships. Most of the people listening to the Cupid's Coach podcast are single, dating, thinking about becoming single, like, oh my gosh, I might actually want to get divorced, but what would it be like dating? And so people listen to this podcast and they're like, I don't know, maybe I should stay married. So it's a beautiful time to examine who we are, how we are, why we are, how we are. So that's why it's lovely for me to introduce you to the people in my community. And I applaud you for creating systems that are accessible to us from wherever we are, not only flying to the UK to sit in your office and have a one-on-one session. So that's beautiful. Thank you for doing that.
Yes, I mean, since we went online, everybody had to go online since 2020. I believe it was a blessing, because before that, I only had clients in London. I literally visited their homes, or we were having private sessions. And since that happened, I had to go online. I started to have American clients, European clients, Asian clients. So it was really eye-opening, and it was really offering this beautiful tool to much more people. Yeah.
Exactly the same thing happened here. During COVID, all 10 of my high-level matchmaking clients, we decided, let's put your program on hold. We don't know how bad this COVID thing is going to be. I don't want to lose time on your program. So I put everybody on hold. And then I found that there were plenty of people who still wanted to be engaging. They wanted to have connection more so than ever. So I began to do, just like you did, more of my consultations by Zoom And now more of my introductions by Zoom. I just did one this morning. There are two people who are in Northern California, about 2 hours away, and I really want to introduce them. So I'm going to introduce them through a FaceTime or a Zoom first. And if they have a nice connection, then maybe they'll have another Zoom call, or maybe they'll meet up halfway in between and have a coffee date or a lunch date. It's really been beautiful how tragedy, problems can cause innovation, and creativity can force us to innovate, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So the people that you know in the UK who are going through this thing called dating, some of your clients are single. What's your situation? Are you coupled up or are you a single person?
You know, this is so funny, I have to tell you. So I used to be married, or basically I used to live with my husband for 15 years. We have two beautiful children. And the funny thing was that for like the first 10 years, we didn't marry. We had the two kids, but we were not marrying. And then we decided that, oh, let's get married now. So we got married before going to New Zealand. So do the paperwork easier, you know, and then just have this marriage. And then 3 years later, we divorced. So we were together, you know, 10 years, then we married, and when I divorced him, actually that was when I got introduced to karma yoga healing, but I wasn't practicing enough yet. Why I'm saying that? That if I wait longer, or if I know what I know now, might I wouldn't divorce, because I know how to actually deal with other people's feelings now, other people's, you know, situations, how to mitigate things better, and how to be more mindful about our actions, basically, right? Why I divorced, it was because I felt disrespected. I felt unheard, unsupported. He chose to work in another town instead of working in where we lived. So we got distant a lot. He wasn't often at home. And then when he was at home, he wasn't nice, you know, he was speaking things which I didn't like. So it was like, it created an anxious environment, which I didn't appreciate it. And when I started to talk to him about the idea of being a mentor, a holistic mentor and a healer instead of an engineer, he was like, no, you know, he didn't understand it. He didn't like the idea. He was against it. So I was like, okay, I need to move on with my life. I really feel where I need to go. I was in that time, we were living in Hungary just after New Zealand. And I was like, I felt I need to move to London. So actually, I packed up my two children and moved to London. And he was the one who took us to the airport. And so he was very sad, obviously. And then he's visited us later on as well. And then he wanted to, you know, come together again with us. But then I made up my mind that no, no, no. Anyway, so he moved on. He has a beautiful relationship now. He's very happy. He's in love, and then he's enjoying his new relationship, and they moved in together, and everything is beautiful. I am living with my two children. So it's also gives me a really amazing, how can I say this, comfort that I am never alone. You know, they are always around me. It's always have that cozy feeling that I have people to talk to. I have, you know, they are always with me. And I have my amazing connections online with my clients, you know, and who's also my friends. So I feel really, how can I say, I feel content and happy with all of these connections. But of course, I also tried dating, and it was all over the place. Like, I'm a Cancer, and the Cancer is really nurturing and loving, and looking at everyone like the best things in them, you know, like always the green flags, you know, and never recognizing the red flags, only after a while. But going for the green flag, giving them the, you know, giving them always the how can I say, the trust, you know, that, oh, I believe you are a good person. That's how I start with someone, you know. And then eventually after 2, 3 months, obviously when they are tired to carry the mask and they put on the mask, then you are like, oh, So then, and then and the other thing that I am really easy with when I'm recognizing that something is not working or not truthful or whatever, then it's easy for me to let them go. That's a good thing in me, that I don't know how my energy is, that I can detach easily when I feel like something is not working, or it's not. And then the other thing is, when I feel at the end maybe some betrayers, or I feel at the end some disappointment, I do the source memory healing. So with my old relationships, when I was younger and I had other partners before my husband, again, when I had any disappointment, I just stepped through them. Like, okay, this doesn't work, goodbye. And then I stepped through. And then now, when I knew the technique of source memory healing and I had some disappointment, started to do the healing, and came back all my exes in the memories. All the memories came back, and then I released them one by one, healed them, and I was like, wow, this is a really good opportunity now with this current relationship, that actually I'm healing my past. So I was really grateful for that experience. So now I'm actually growing and healing through these relationships, which happened in my life in the last couple of years since I divorced. And the funny thing why I'm saying is because tomorrow I'm planning to go, my first time in my life, for a speed dating.
Right there in
In
London.
London. In London, yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
really curious about this, yeah. And yeah, it's just so
I've been
timely.
noticing too, some of my clients have been doing Tantra speed dating. We were just talking about it in my boot camp class. And if they have those in the UK, you would probably appreciate that too. It sounds like really woo-woo, but really it's about creating connection and getting good, like the practice of connecting with people, the practice of eye contact, the practice of dropping into a meaningful conversation. It's a skill that we can develop. And I really love that you're looking at your former relationships, looking for what you can learn from it. And you've reached a place in your life where you're not reacting to your former traumas in life. You can choose if how you want to respond to something. It's not a knee-jerk reaction based in trauma.
Yes, and then it's also created the transformation that now I'm actually not gonna be the person who's only looking at the green flags. No, I'm gonna go for the red flags. So definitely
There's,
finding
there's a
like,
there's a fine line in there somewhere, because don't you also know some people who only see the bad? They only see the negatives. And that's actually a nice, safe way to live, because you won't really let anybody in, right? They're all flawed. They're all problematic, right? So you get to be safe and alone. I'll show you who, and the people who are watching, you can see my mother-in-law, Feisty Frida Ferman. Can you see her?
yes.
So she's the one who's the mascot for my company. And she was dating successfully into her 90s. She was married for a
Wow.
long time and then had 3 more boyfriends. And as she was getting older, she sat me down and she said, Julie, I want you to tell the ladies, all the single ladies, the secret to doing dating well. And I said, what's the secret to doing dating well, Frida? She said, you got to look at the donut, not the hole, right? Look at the donut, not the hole. So you were looking too much at just the donut and you weren't seeing the hole.
Mm.
Lots of other people are so afraid of being hurt, so afraid of doing it wrong, choosing the wrong person, that they just make everybody wrong. And that's not any way to open up your heart. So there's a line in there that you're going to find. I can feel it. You will find it.
Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah, the shortcut to that is look at all of the qualities that you'd love to see in your future partner. I don't care if it's a long list, it usually is. But then you're going to identify the top 3, maybe 4, not more than 5 key criteria. Those are the things you'd rather be single forever than partner with somebody who didn't have these qualities. And if the
Mm.
person seems to have those qualities, keep exploring. If they don't, bye-bye. Make a friend, be nice to them if you see them at an event, but you're not going to invite them into your life at a serious level, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, very, very good. So you have been studying at it some ancient healing techniques. Things that people figured out centuries ago are helpful for us as human beings. Can you tell us more about what you brought from the ancient healing techniques to today?
Yes, there are several ones. So the Reiki was one of them. And the other one is the Karma Yoga healing, which is actually a 60,000 years old Adi Yogi Shiva technique. And this is from Kashmir. And this has breathing techniques, this has meditation techniques, very powerful ones. Only like doing one meditation can open up a portal for you to connect with your past lives, to connect with your family unconscious, your soul family, and also to connect to source for more, how can I say, breadcrumbs or channeling, into your life. So when people feel lost and they just start doing this meditation, they suddenly start to have new ideas. They suddenly start to see a vision, and they will be less afraid and worry about what comes. And that's why this meditation is very powerful. And it also helps people to become more mindful about their actions. You're looking at more like before they take an action, they can see the consequences of their actions and decide like, do I really want to take that action? Is really important because the actions come from your thoughts and emotions, and also to controlling your thoughts is very important. So doing this meditation, this samadhi meditation, is helping with all of this. It's helping to make better choices, helping to control your emotions and then your thought patterns, and being like making it more easy also to reprogram your subconscious mind, which is like the beliefs and the habits, which is also forming your life. So these techniques is from 60,000 years old, but in the current, like the self-development journey, it's you can use it and it's really beneficial.
Well, I noticed when I was studying up on you, you had mentioned that you're a success habit coach. And I love it when we can get a handle on habits, getting rid of the ones that aren't healthy, ushering in new ones. So tell us a little bit about how you can go from listening to a meditation to changing a habit or bringing about a new habit in our lives.
So first we need to make the decision like what habit we want to change. Like having first the awareness, obviously, like what habit is which not is self-sabotaging, right? So first, how do you know which is self-sabotaging habit, which is ruining your relationships, ruining your health, ruining your environment? And then if you know which one is that, like, okay, how to get rid of them, and getting rid of them, that's when you need to be more in peace in your mind to follow on that decision. Because if you are all over the place emotionally, you would go back to that negative habit because it's easy. But if you do the meditation and then you are actually more mindful, then you force yourself to be more disciplined and say, no, I'm not going to go back to that habit because it's not good for me. So you are more mindful, you make better decisions. So you actually stop doing those things. But it doesn't has to be like everything at one time. It's always recommended to actually work on one habit at a time, to bring in much faster success, because then if you achieve that, then you are more empowered to do the next one and the next one, because it's more likely that you're gonna fail in this approach if you want to get rid of all of your bad habits at one day, right? So, and it's gonna take weeks probably or months to finally really go deep into that transformation, and then able to transform your habits, and again pick good habits then, right? So how we choose good habits is that seeing people who we who influencing us, and seeing like their transformation, and then choosing maybe their habits and trying out them, but it's not always maybe good and aligned with you. So that's how people go like, oh, I see that person is so healthy or so rich or so happy, like, oh, let's try the habits what he's doing. But then maybe you realize that that habit is not, maybe you can't do it, or it doesn't bring you the same results as that person. And I just recommend that don't get frustrated or guilty or ashamed about it, because we are all different, you are unique. So just focus on what makes you healthier, what makes you happier, and what makes you more successful, and try and start doing those things. And it's a trial, we need to try all kinds of things before we actually find the best things for ourselves.
It's very true. I'm thinking about a habit that I built a couple years back. There's another gentleman who's been on my podcast. His name is John Mitchell, and he has a program called Think It, Be It. And I took his course and I just integrated his teachings into my life. And the one thing that always happens in the morning, first thing, is I put in my ear pods and I listen to a meditation that I've created under his guidance, and it changes. So I'll recreate the meditation every 6 months or so because we're growing. And I listen to it while I do my yoga sun salutations. And I realize how powerful it is for me to do that. It's only 20 or 30 minutes, exercises, stretching. I've developed this routine, but I broke my foot a couple months ago and I couldn't do my sun salutations. And so I didn't do them. And I didn't start off my day in the same way that I had. And I noticed that I was just a little bit discombobulated. You know that word, discombobulated? Do you use that word in Hungarian?
Not sure.
Disjointed, disconnected.
Yes.
And I realized, well, of course, I'm not doing my normal routine. And that for me was a routine that spurred lots of other good habits. So I think there's like a key habit that each of us needs to get to, and then other things will grow from it. So I do my morning, I have enough solidity in my foot now that I can do my sun salutations, and it really, really helps. It shows me how important habit is. So I'm glad you work on it. Can you give us an example of a habit, a bad habit that you used to have that you don't have anymore because you carved it out of your life and you created a new one?
Hmm. Let me think about it.
It's been a long
Uh,
time since you've had bad habits.
yeah. So, for example, I wasn't exercising enough. So, because I was also heavy, I was also overweight, and it wasn't comfortable. So I was like, oh, it's painful or is it uncomfortable? So I didn't like to exercise much, and that was one bad habit obviously I had to get rid of. And then I was also, blaming my all day work and stress and everything, and then I was blaming that motherhood, that I don't have time to go playing tennis because I want to also spend time with my children. So it was back in the days when I was working 9 to 5, and then after like working 8 hours, then I wanted to spend time at home with the kids instead of going playing tennis. So I always came up with some excuses, and then creating something that blocked me from actually doing some more. And that could have been the how can I say, the benefits of an exercise could have been maybe a solution for how I felt, because I felt miserable back then because I haven't even took time to exercise. And then the other thing was like the eating habits. Obviously, I was eating all kinds of food. I was eating, sweets like donuts, you mentioned. So I was eating donuts, or I was eating, pizza and all of those things. And then when I was in New Zealand and I did the Reiki on myself, the Reiki healing for 6 months, and then like overnight, eventually I started to stop craving certain food groups. I stopped eating anything which contains white flour, white sugar, dairy, and alcohol. And it had a really huge effect on me. Like every month, like 2, 3 kilos was like melting off of me without any extra effort because of just changing my diet. And that was huge. And I also felt that I am now more happy to exercise because I'm lighter. So together it was easier to do it. And then I also felt like using my car was a negative effect on me because I was going by car everywhere. So when I skipped using my car and then I was walking everywhere, was much again helped with my all, stamina and then strength and health. So yeah, those kind of habits.
And those changes that you made in your diet, do you still continue to eat that way?
Yeah, it's interesting because it was so effortless. Something, it felt like energetic reprogramming in my brain or something because it was overnight, literally. Like I woke up, I went to the kitchen, and then it was just like I felt I can't eat this and this and this and this. And then in the afternoon, my husband bought a bottle of wine and he put it on the counter. And then I went into the kitchen in the afternoon, I seen the wine, I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, this is on the list. I just knew that is something which I can't consume anymore. It was so powerful. It was like I believe that I opened up a portal spiritually because of the Reiki energies, which either raised my vibration so high that my body rejected this kind of food, I would say, because they were like low vibrational food compared to my vibration, or it was just I just stepped into some energies which were related to my other existence in another timeline. I don't know what happened, but it was so powerful that I it never came back. So the craving never came back. So it's like when I see anything with sugar, like a Snickers bar, or I see a donut, it's for me, it's like when you buy dog food, right? So it's like because I'm still buying that for my kids, I can't tell them like, oh, you are not allowed to eat donut anymore because it's their culture or they love those things, and I of course I try to make it as less as possible, but it's in our household. And when I'm looking at it, it's like, those soaps in the bathroom which smells like coconut or chocolate, but you don't eat it because it's a soap. Like for me, the donut is like that. I know it exists, it smells good, but it's not for me to eat. So
Beautiful. How old are your children now, Edit?
my son is 18 and my daughter is 13. Yeah.
Have they noticed differences in you over the course of these past years?
Of course, and then not just me, they transformed as well because of my healings, because it's like a ripple effect. We are connected obviously energetically, also because they live in the same house, but also because genetically, we connected, they are in the same soul family. So when you take the responsibility, start healing yourself, you heal your whole soul family. So they transformed a lot, and not just them, even my mom, who's living thousands of kilometers away, she's transformed as I was doing the healings as well. So it's because you stepping into the family unconscious and then you heal your ancestors as well and your whole lineage.
It's just beautiful. I think we have enough petroleum engineers in the world, but we don't have enough people doing what you're doing. So I'm glad you made this transformation for yourself.
Thank you.
So if people want to work with you, they want to get in touch with you, they want to be part of your universe, what do they do?
So I have a website with the same name, like Edit B Kiss. So there is a B there because the B is part of my surname. So B Kiss is my surname actually. So editbkiss.com is my website, and from my website they can send me a WhatsApp message, they can email me. There is a contact page there, or they can also find the podcast there, and then also there are links to my social media, so they can go to my YouTube channel, my Instagram, and find out what's the newest in my world. And then also I just opened a couple of months ago a school community. I'm not sure if you heard about school, skool.com. They have many communities there, the school. And I opened my school community and I gave the same name as my show, Release with Ease, so can easily find it. And I'm doing their programs, live programs. There are also workshops there, and other like meditations, and a community where people feel great and then connect each other and talking about healing, spirituality, growing together.
I love it. So they can find you by Edit B Kiss, and I love Kiss, like Kiss, like I love that. It's probably why I paid attention to your name from the beginning. And they can also find you by going to Release with Ease. They can Google that. That's how I found you this morning, is I just Googled Release with Ease, and all the different places showed up. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your wisdom. If you happen to be a single girl at the moment and you're not attached, register with me so I can pay attention and I can find you. And if I have candidates for you in the UK, I will make it happen. So that would be fun too.
Yes, thank you, Julie. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you for being in my world. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, take this to heart. And if you feel that you have some misery in your life that you would like to transform into peace, check in with Edit Be Kiss or Google Release with Ease and get into her world. I'm going to be listening to your podcast, and I'm very happy that you're here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you guys go out there and transform me to we for yourself. Thanks for being here.